What's going on, everybody? RJ Ochoa here from SB Nation's bloggingtheboys.com. Hope all is well wherever you are. We hope you're happy, safe, healthy, and I know we haven't had a video in a hot minute. It's the summer. We've been putting together plans. We're really excited about some stuff to come. I also know I have a new camera. I feel like the lens is wider. I feel like you can capture more things. You can see my son's bassinet that he sits in sometimes when he's in here, but it's good to be back. We're going to have some videos with a lot more regularity starting up. I know training camp's about a month away for the Dallas Cowboys, but our lead up to it starts basically now. So in the spirit of that, today we are gathered here on the Blog of the Boys YouTube channel. Please make sure you do subscribe to discuss the Dallas Cowboys roster, but discuss it in a very particular way. In case you did not see it, this past week, ESPN put together a Dallas Cowboys 53-man roster prediction with OTAs and minicamps all the way now in the rearview mirror. And we're going to look at it, kind of discuss who they have, who they don't have, and offer our thoughts. I wrote about this myself at bloggingtheboys.com this past week. You can go check that out. Or, of course, you can head on over to ESPN and check out their full Dallas Cowboys 53-man roster prediction as mentioned. Let's go ahead and get right to it. Here we go. We've got two quarterbacks. I don't think this is shocking in any stretch of the imagination or by any stretch of the imagination. Dak Prescott, Cooper Rush. I know there are some Ben DiNucci stands out there, but not making this 53-man roster no matter what, I don't think. Three running backs for the Dallas Cowboys, technically. You've got Ezekiel Elliott, Tony Pollard, and Malik Davis. I don't know that it would be shocking if the Cowboys only went with two running backs. We've seen them do that many different times since drafting Ezekiel Elliott now 6 years ago. But either way, three running backs. Shout out to Malik Davis. Rico Dowdle, Todd Archer, who wrote this prediction for ESPN, noted has a chance. I know there's a lot of Rico Dowdle fans, but Malik Davis given the nod here. One fullback, Ryan Nall. The Dallas Cowboys love to have a fullback, or at least traditionally have loved to have a fullback. So Ryan Nall gets the shout out here. But if we move on to the wide receivers, this is the one that actually kind of first caught my interest level. We've got CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, James Washington, Jalen Tolbert, Noah Brown, and TJ Vasher. Now, a couple of things here. First of all, obviously, you've got your names that aren't shocking to anybody. You've got CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, Jalen Tolbert. Those three make total and complete sense. I know there are some people who feel like James Washington may not make the roster, just depending on the way things go. I really, really doubt that he wouldn't. Maybe he won't be the contributor that the Dallas Cowboys kind of hyped him up to be at the very beginning, but James Washington, nevertheless, I do think is fairly safe on the roster nonetheless. So that's four. Noah Brown. Caught myself, tried to breathe and talk at the same time. Thank you, Bear. Appreciate it, dude. Bear's hopping out of the room, so maybe the rest of this video will be quiet. But Noah Brown makes 5, and Noah Brown has been the wide receiver 5 for the Dallas Cowboys for a very long time. He contributes on special teams. We all know that. Noah Brown makes sense. Okay, great. But the 6th name, let's put this list back up here for you. TJ Vasher. And I'm not shocked by this. I think TJ Vasher has a very solid chance to make the Dallas Cowboys roster. In fact, if there's an undrafted free agent who's going to make it that's not a safety, we'll get there. But it's probably TJ Vasher. We know the Cowboys love their UDFA wide receivers, but Simi Fehoko isn't mentioned here. And that's what I'm talking about is the little blurb that is written here. It even shouts out Dennis Houston, speaking of UDFAs, but Simi Fehoko, second-year player for the Cowboys, not even mentioned in the blurb. That wouldn't be shocking. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say like, wow, it would just be the biggest Bear is back, apparently. It would be the biggest surprise if Simi Fehoko did not make this 53-man roster, but given his athleticism, given how much we know the Dallas Cowboys were really big on him coming into last season, it would just be a little like, wow, hey, it kind of is what it is. Now, something that is worth noting is that Michael Gallup will obviously be on the 53-man roster, but he might not at the very beginning. Now, the way the process works is the Dallas Cowboys have to technically carry Michael Gallup on the initial 53-man roster and then maybe place him on short-term injured reserve. So maybe somebody like Simi Fehoko would be a candidate to be cut just as a temporary sort of ceremonial thing, only to be brought back after Michael Gallup is placed in the appropriate place. But let's move on to tight ends. Dalton Schultz, who has, by the way, until July 15th to come to terms on a long-term agreement with the Dallas Cowboys. If not, he has to play this season out on the franchise tag that he already signed. Sean McEwen, Jake Ferguson, Jeremy Sprinkle. This is pretty chalk. This all makes a lot of sense. I don't think any of us are really stunned by this. Jake Ferguson, I know we all want to see a lot from. Sean McEwen, I think his role is really going to grow, obviously. It's just a different group. That's where we're at now with this Dallas Cowboys tight end group. But moving on to the offensive line. line. Here we go. Tyron Smith. Let's just kind of read through it here. Let's get the defensive line out of here. We don't want any sort of surprises here ruined for you. But Tyron Smith, Tyler Biadasz, Zach Martin, Terrence Steele. That's the Dallas Cowboys starting offensive line from left to right. Then we've got our reserve players. We've got Conor McGovern, who's obviously the guard reserve for the Cowboys primarily. Matt Farniok, who we know they're converting to a center, gives you another option there. Matt Woletsko, who is this year's rookie 5th-round pick, one of them at least, and last year's 4th-rounder Josh Ball. I don't disagree with any of these things. I'm not trying to sit here and say that, oh, this is a weird group, whatever. This makes total and complete sense. I can't really think of a name that should be on this list that isn't going to be, or that isn't on this list, I should say. And I can't look at any of these names and say, well, this doesn't make sense. I do think that some of the faith the Cowboys have had is a little bit misplaced, right? I mean, we're talking about, look at this list, because this is the list of Dallas Cowboys offensive linemen that are likely going to make the team. Outside of your starters, Conor McGovern, Matt Farniok, Matt Woletsko, Josh Ball, who is your swing tackle? Who is your swing tackle that you feel great about? If and when Tyron Smith has to miss some time, who is your starting left tackle? I don't know a comfortable answer to that question. And I mean, there's not somebody who's not on this list that would make us feel good about it, but that just kind of speaks to the way the position looks right now for the Dallas Cowboys and the state of that, swing tackle position, the state of tackle depth really on the Dallas Cowboys. That's what was so valuable about Terrence Steele, is that Lyle Collins was your starter at right tackle, and that Terrence was this swing tackle option on whatever side he had to play. But those days are over now with Lyle Collins in Cincinnati. Let's move on to the defensive line. Again, I don't want to spoil anything for you here, but let's move on. 9 defensive linemen carried for the Dallas Cowboys on this particular 53-man roster prediction. We've got DeMarcus Lawrence, Neville Gallimore, Osa Odighizuwa, Dorrance Armstrong, Dante Fowler, Carlos Watkins, Sam Williams, John Ridgeway, and Quinton Bohanna. Obviously absent from this group is Micah Parsons, who's classified as a linebacker, but we all know is a pass rusher in many different ways. Just Micah is fantastic. But is there anything that we're shocked by here? I think that one of the interesting things to note here, and again, let's look at this. DeMarcus Lawrence, Neville Gallimore, Osa Odighizuwa, Dorrance Armstrong, Dante Fowler, Carlos Watkins, Sam Williams, John Ridgeway, and Quinton Bohanna. Where's Chauncey Golston? Where is Chauncey Golston? That is the question. I do think, and I think you can argue that maybe he doesn't make the cut, right? Again, you got DeMarcus Lawrence. If we're looking at edge rushers here, because I think that the interior depth on this team is pretty legit. If we're being honest with ourselves, it's come a long way. I know they don't pay it the most serious attention, but you're talking Neville Gallimore, Osa Odighizuwa, Carlos Watkins, John Ridgeway, and Quinton Bohanna. Those are players that we feel really, really, really good about. But your edge rushers here, DeMarcus Lawrence, obviously that's your war daddy, great, awesome. Dorrance Armstrong, who came back this year, awesome. Dante Fowler, we're hoping that Dan Quinn's going to be able to make something happen there. And you've got, hey, Quinton, Sam Williams is your rookie. Who knows exactly what you get there, but absent from this list is not just Chauncey Golston, but Terrell Basham. And so this is probably the group where the most difficult decisions and most difficult conversations are going to come from the Dallas Cowboys. And I think you'll see that as we continue to move along here, that everything else is pretty easy to kind of sort and compartmentalize who we want to carry, who we think is going to be on this roster. This is, I think, where the most difficult decisions are ultimately going to come. It's going to come down to, do you believe in Dante Fowler having some sort of fountain of youth moment with Dan Quinn? Do you believe, I don't know that there's a draft pick that you don't believe in, right? I don't know that anybody wants to say goodbye, to John Ridgeway right now. That's not likely, but that's what it would come down to. And so you can only carry 53 players. That's just the way things tend to go here. Whoops, don't want to spoil the corners. 5 linebackers, very chalk, like I said, Micah Parsons, Leighton Vander Esch, Jabril Cox, Luke Gifford, and Devin Harper making this list. And the reason for that, I think, and by the way here, you will note absent is Damone Clark, who Todd Archer notes will open the year on the non-football injury list. The Cowboys can say that they think that he might play this season. And I don't blame them for saying that. They should be saying that. They should hope for that, but it just does seem unlikely. So Devin Harper might make the team off of that alone, just because without Devin Harper, you only have 4 linebackers here. And especially, you kind of only have 3.5 because Micah Parsons is moving around so much. So Devin Harper makes it, but other than that, very chalk, very standard, very predictable. 2 of these players, Leighton Vander Esch and Luke Gifford, brought back by the Cowboys this offseason. Let's move to corners before we spoil safeties. Very chalk. I've been using that word a lot. You're going to see that as we continue here. Trayvon Diggs, Anthony Brown, who I think is starting to become a little bit underrated. Jordan Lewis, Kelvin Joseph. That is obviously a situation in and of itself that we'll continue to monitor. Nashawn Wright and Deron Bland. So shout out to the rookies this season. The line here from Todd Archer is, this is as deep as the Cowboys have been at corner in some time. I think we overlook the turnover that happened at this position group. Obviously, after 2016, the Cowboys lost their entire starting secondary in Mo Claiborne, Brandon Carr, J.J. Wilcox, and Barry Church. And there was the infusion of youth, right? They drafted Chidobe Awuzie and Jordan Lewis and Marquez White in one fell swoop of a draft in 2017. And shout out to Jordan Lewis, who's still hanging on. Anthony Brown's the one, actually, who's still hanging on all the way back from the 2016 class. But I think we feel really, really, really good about those top three. And I know that Anthony Brown has his detractors, but still, Trayvon Diggs, Anthony Brown, Jordan Lewis as your nickel corner. And obviously, we don't know what to expect from Kelvin Joseph. And it's a difficult thing to evaluate him as a football player, but he obviously has a lot of talent if we're talking about just his skills and talents as a football player. And so if he can grow and develop and become a starting corner, a legit starting corner opposite of Trayvon Diggs, all of a sudden you have a very legitimate depth piece in Anthony Brown and a strong starting nickel corner in Jordan Lewis. This is a really, really solid group, a much better one, to Todd's point, than we've seen in quite some time in Dallas. Let's move on to the safeties. 4 of them. Shout out to the UDFA, who I mentioned, but Jaron Kearse, who came back, Malik Hooker, who joined him, Donovan Wilson, who's entering a contract here. That's an important note here. And Marquise Bell, the UDFA, who many people are very, very, very high on. You will note, as Todd Archer does in his write-up, that Israel Mukuamu, last year's draft pick, is absent from this group. I think that if I can comfortably say, because the edge rusher group that we talked about is obviously going to be a little bit difficult to figure out, Chauncey Golston and whatnot, but Israel Mukuamu, it already bums me out, but I think this is a really safe, situation to say he might not make the team. But so it's tough. It's just you follow the money, and as Todd notes, the Cowboys guaranteed $200,000 from Bell's salary as a UDFA. They were very, very high on him and made sure that they got him. And so 4 safeties, not a shock. 4 specialists as well for the Dallas Cowboys. Jonathan Garabay, he is actually, if you're talking the UDFA, who's technically the blockiest of locks to make the team, it's him, because the Cowboys literally don't have another kicker. Brian Anger, who they brought back, and Jake McQuaid, not to mention CJ Goodwin, who gets classified as a corner, but we all know is truly a special teams player. I think all told, it's difficult to disagree with this roster. I mean, it's difficult to not feel like Todd kind of nailed it. Again, we can kind of get a little bit picky with some of the things there, but I mean, this feels, with a month to go before training camp, a lot like the group that we could really see making the team. Of course, there will be some things that change, hopefully not, but injuries are a factor, or other decisions. Maybe there's somebody who gets cut at 53-man roster cuts across the NFL who the Dallas Cowboys are really big fans of, and there are other places where the Cowboys can kind of look to cheat, look to maybe squeeze out an extra room. As an example, just looking at it here again, they're carrying 3 running backs here. They're carrying 6 wide receivers, and I think they have to because of Michael Gallup, but maybe that's a spot. Maybe the Cowboys, once they put Michael Gallup on ice, if they do at the very beginning of the season, maybe they don't replace him. Maybe they don't bring back Simi Fehoko. Maybe they go long somewhere else. They're carrying 4 tight ends here. Maybe they're willing to say goodbye to Jeremy Sprinkle, something like that. Those are the places where they can potentially mine out an extra roster spot. That is the trick with always kind of balancing the way you put together a 53-man roster. But like I said, there's about a month until the Dallas Cowboys head on out to Oxnard for training camp. We're starting to get really excited for it here. I'm going to start with our position review and preview series soon enough here on the Blog of the Boys YouTube channel. We'll look at the position groups entirely, what the Cowboys have, what they need, who we're rooting for, who the candidates are to maybe surprise or make the roster. So be on the lookout for that. Do subscribe, please, here to the Blog of the Boys YouTube channel. We're very excited for another season to explore, have some live shows. Our roundtables will be returning much sooner rather than later once training camp gets going in its full capacity. My name's RJ Ochoa. If you didn't know, you can follow me on Twitter or Instagram at RJ Ochoa. I'm also on TikTok at rj.ochoa. If email is more your speed, you can hit me up at rj.ochoa@sbnation.com. We are in the home stretch of the offseason. We got about a month. I know that the NBA season's over. We've got baseball going on. The NHL season's about to come to an end, depending on when you watch this video. But we can make it. We can do it. We can survive. Like I said, just about a month until we have football stuff in our lives every day. Not necessarily games for a little bit, but we will have football action, football material to kind of sit and digest over starting about a month from now. And that's the beginning of the marathon. So looking forward to it. Looking forward to experiencing it with you. But yeah, hope you have yourself a great day. In fact, I hope you have the best day ever. Once again, my name is RJ Ochoa, and thanks for joining us. Have the best day ever. Like I said, you know why? Because you deserve it. We'll see you next time.